Welcome to I Am Me podcast. I'm your host, Liz Bachman, and on this podcast, I want to celebrate you for being you. I'm super excited to sit down with my guests each week and talk about their journey, their experiences, and where they came from. And I hope that we could help some people along the way. So without further ado, let's dive into this week's episode. So today I'm really excited. I have my friend Patrick Lemon on, and I get to talk to him. Me and him were in an acting class about 6 or 7 months ago together, and we got to do a scene together. And he's a super cool dude. He is super friendly, the big teddy bear you want to run to. So I'm really excited to get to talk to him today and just kind of dive into how he got into acting. And yeah, so hey, how you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing good. You're too kind. Thank you.
I mean, I love you. So I'm excited.
I love you too.
I'm excited to talk to you today. So diving right in, kind of like the first question is, kind of what sparked your interest in acting, and when did that all start for you? Because, actors, I know our journeys are all different. So kind of what's your journey into it, and when did that start?
Yeah. Well, I kind of started when I was like a teenager, about like 14, 15. Mm-hmm. I had some problems like getting in front of the class and like sharing my work and talking in front of the class. And I had kind of stage fright. So I was like, I'm going to take an acting class to kind of get over my stage fright. Yeah. And got over the stage fright with the acting and all that. But then I realized that I just didn't like to share my work in front of people. I got nervous about sharing my creations. Right. So that's why I would get stage fright. So I still have that kind of fright with that. But yeah, no, my mother, she actually was an opera singer, and she actually later on in life, she taught drama. And my father, he actually was in television. So
that's super cool. I didn't know your mom was an opera singer. That's awesome.
Yeah, she was.
Okay.
Yeah, she actually almost got into Juilliard, but her piano skills weren't up to par.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's cool. And your dad was in TV. I didn't know that either. So that's interesting.
Yeah, actually, I got something cool I can show you.
Okay, cool.
This is actually, that's a picture of my father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's back in the 60s.
So wait, what's he doing there? Just because people be listening, so we got to...
Yeah, no, he was a station manager for, there's a TV channel out in Wichita, Kansas, Channel 69, and he was the station manager. And he was there for many years, and that's where my brother was born. And then in the early 70s, he got a call to work for Ted Turner. So He came to Georgia. And that's when I was born here. I was born in the mid-70s. But yeah, he worked for Turner too. So
I think it's always interesting when you hear about like people who came from like kind of a family of like performers or entertainers, or they're in this industry. I didn't. My family has not got any really performers in it. So I always think it's cool when kind of that gets passed down, so to speak, from, the parents. And it's kind of interesting. Like you have opera performer, TV, and you kind of like threw them both together, and an actor came out, which is pretty cool.
Well, they were always very supportive of what I wanted to go for, because they knew what it was like to follow their dreams.
Yeah.
So some parents, I don't think, do that for their kids, be that supportive. So.
For sure. So you started in high school, you started acting, mm-hmm. and then kind of how did it segue from there? Did you started on stage, and then I know you do TV, film now. So kind of what was that journey process like, kind of segueing into adulthood from a teenager to wanting to pursue this,
Well, I started on the stage and love the theater. Theater is, one of my favorite passions in life, and love being on the stage. But there's unfortunately not much money in the theater, mm-hmm. especially here in Atlanta growing up.
Yeah.
So that's when I kind of was like, okay, I'll check out, film and commercial work. And at the time, this is in the early 2000s, there wasn't too much work, but there wasn't that many actors.
Yeah.
So it was kind of... It was good to be like, you could become a big fish in a small pond, but now it's, you're a small fish in a huge pond with all the different, there's a lot more jobs, but there's a bigger pool of people.
You really, because how old are you, remind me?
I'm 48.
Okay. So you really went through the kind of that turn of Atlanta becoming what it is in terms of having work. But I like that you mentioned wasn't as much work, but not nearly as much actors. Because I think last time I checked, there's like 50,000 actors in Atlanta now. And I mean, there's a lot of work here, but not 50,000 actors worth of work. So
Yeah.
you really kind of got to see, did that help you since you kind of got to see as the market started expanding in Atlanta, were you kind of on the forefront of that in terms of being able to connect with people? And because you kind of build up your reputation and have been here for a while. So was that, does that make
Yeah,
sense? Was that, did that help you out?
it,
Like in terms of, as it started to grow, you were kind of already here and had your roots here?
well, unfortunately, in like the early, like I said, probably about 2004, I took a little break from acting. And that was kind of the time when it started really building up. Like 2008 is when it started really, really growing. And I was out of the market. So I came back in later on, if you know what I'm saying. I
Yeah,
took a
yeah.
break
Okay.
to raise a family. So I wish that I had been there for the early 2008 time period, in acting, because I had friends that were landing all kinds of roles, and
Yeah.
it was fun to watch my friends
For sure. For
succeed. But
sure.
you know what I'm saying. But I was a little jealous too.
Oh yeah. No, I
Yeah,
completely get the actor's envy. I
yeah,
absolutely love when I see my friends do well, but we all want to be doing well, and it just kind of like
of course.
getting back to that place and remembering like your time comes when your time comes, and everything happens. I'm a strong believer that everything happens for a reason, and I don't know, like sometimes you need that break from acting.
Yep.
It's a grueling profession, and anyone who's trying to pursue it, like you really have to pursue it because you love it. Like it's a lot of work that goes on and that people don't see. So
I will say, though, taking some time away from it, you realize how much you miss it and how much you love it. Because getting back into it this time, I'm embracing it full force and just loving every element of it, and
right.
it's been a lot of fun.
So for you, what was kind of the reason why? And if you don't want to get into this, you don't have to. But kind of the reason that you decided to take a break, because I've heard from a few different actors, some who have been like very successful, that like, hey, like I ended up taking like a 5 year break at this point. And I'm like, what, you like? So kind of what led to that, if you don't mind sharing.
It was I wanted to raise a family and have a son, and just kind of take a little bit more time in the family kind of aspect of my life. So I didn't want to give all my focus into acting, so I just kind of just took a couple years off from that.
That's cool. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you have a son. How old is he?
Mhm. He is 15.
Okay. So what does he think about you acting? I'm always
Oh, he loves it.
okay.
He
Okay.
loves it.
That's
Oh, yeah.
awesome.
It's whenever I've got something out, he's always just super proud of his dad, and he's like very supportive.
That's super
Yeah,
exciting. And like what a great example too, I love I don't know, parents who aren't afraid to like really pursue their dreams in front of their kids. Like I don't know, it sets a precedent that like, hey, like my dad can do this, like I
yeah.
can do what I want to do too.
I think the coolest thing with my son, though, when he was in second grade, the year when we had that solar eclipse, that
Oh,
that
yeah,
big
yeah,
lunar
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Okay, well, I went to his school because I had the day off, and to see the lunar eclipse with him. And I go into the classroom, and I had just shot this series of short films for the school system. Boosterthon is what it's called, but
Mhm.
it's all these like kind of like pledgeathons to help raise money.
Yeah.
And I go in there, and as soon as I walk in the classroom, the whole classroom kind of got quiet.
Mhm.
And I thought it was kind of weird, but I didn't think anything of it. We go watch the lunar eclipse, and I go back to the room, and I'm leaving. And as I'm leaving, one of the little kids is like, "Excuse me, could I get your autograph?" And they had been watching my little short films and all that, and the whole class was like, yeah, "Can I get it too? Can I get it too?" And I just, my son was standing right behind me, put his hand on my back, and was just so
Proud
proud of
of
his dad
you.
as I'm
Yeah.
signing. Yeah, but then walking through the hallways, I noticed that my poster is on the hallways.
That's so cute.
It was really rather cool. So that was kind of my little first glimpse of like really stardom and the signing
Yeah.
autographs and stuff, which is kind of fun.
That's awesome. That reminds me of the first time I ever did an open mic. I like did it out at this place, like nothing big. It was just kind of like at a music school, and they kind of hosted this open mic. And afterward, this little girl like came up to me and wanted to meet me. And her mom was like, she really wanted to meet you. She thought you were amazing. Like, and I was just like, what? Like, and it's like the first time you realize like, oh, hey, like these performances, the stuff that I'm doing, it's connecting with people, like even like a little girl. And, for me, I'm like, oh, it's just an open mic. Like I'm nobody, what? But for her, she was like, wow, you're like the person up on the stage, So
Yeah.
that's really cool. Okay. So your first acting job, kind of like subjective here. I know like you acted in high school, and then we kind of as actors, it's like, okay, I can think about like my first acting job, and then I can think about the first acting job I did where I got paid. So we can kind of dive into both, like as you entered into adulthood, like what was your first like job that you can remember, and then what was the first thing you did where you actually like made some money, or maybe the very first thing that you did you made some money, and if you did, kudos, because that was not me.
Mm-hmm. Shoot. I mean, first acting job was on stage, in high school doing, or I guess you wouldn't call that really a job though, but, oh God. Oh man, the first one that I really remember. I can tell you my first SAG job that I did.
Oh,
That was
dope.
kind of
Okay, yeah, tell me.
yeah. I actually was doing extra work on a movie set, and it was for a movie called Run Ronnie Run, and they were all from LA, all the casting directors and all that. And I got in good with one of the casting directors, and he was not from around here. And he calls me up one night, and he's frantic. He's like, "Man, they've got this pickup scene, and I don't know when to cast for this. They need dancers, and I know nobody around here. I know you're local. Can you help me find some dancers?" And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm a dancer. I've been dancing since I was 14, which was true. I just didn't tell him I was not a very good dancer.
I was about to say,
But,
I was like, I didn't know anything about you dancing. That's hilarious.
well, I've done musicals,
Okay.
all throughout the years. But it's funny, every time I do musicals and the choreographer gets in, they're always like, Patrick, can you kind of dip out, 6 measures
Yeah, like
before the end of the song?
slide out.
Then they'll come back like, can you do 6 more measures and kind of dip out?
I,
Yeah, I don't have a very good. I can act and I can
okay,
sing,
but
dancing. Ooh.
the acting thing to do is like you're like, oh, there's a scene, and you are really gonna. I mean, we're hungry. We want that work. So
Yeah.
you're gonna try and like mold and shape yourself into that. I mean, I do.
Oh yeah. I was in my early 20s, and it's a SAG job, and I'm like I'm not gonna. I couldn't say no to the opportunity, but I had a bunch of dancer friends that could really dance.
Mm-hmm.
So I called them up. I got him a bunch of dancers. And so I showed up on set, and it was a pickup scene. And the scene for it was a joke on Mary Poppins. So we're all dressed as chimney sweep dancers.
Okay.
And the person singing the song is Jack Black. So Jack Black's there singing the song. We're all dressed up as, chimney sweep dancers. And they built this whole elaborate set of it's all on a slant,
on a nice
too.
slant, yeah.
So we learned the dance going this way. Then we have to put it up over here. And so that was a little bit of a challenge. The choreographer, they flew him in from New York, and he had done like a whole bunch of Gap commercials, like where they're dancing like to Oklahoma and things like that. So he was legit. But same thing with him. He's like, Patrick, can you kind of go more to the back? And they kind of hit me the whole time. So I was more just kind of like, you can see me in the final movie, but
that's cool. But that was your first SAG thing.
That was my first SAG,
okay.
and the pay for a dancer on a movie is pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have my own little trailer. I shared the room with somebody else.
Yeah.
But,
No.
And the great thing too, that was it was a pickup shot. It was the last day of the shoot, so they had all this budget they just blew on the meal. So we were eating like lobster, we had filet mignon, we had good stuff. Which
people
nice
don't get crafty, man. Like, or even when the meals are provided, like it. I'm just thinking about my own journey. It's crazy, but
some of the meals can be hit and miss.
Yeah,
some are good, some are bad. This was a nice meal.
Yeah, sometimes on those lower budget things, it seems like a revolving door of pizzas, which I'm not complaining. Like, I'm glad to eat, and I love pizza. I am a pizza girl through and through. But
it does get old.
Day 3 of getting a pizza sent to set, you're like, okay, I'm gonna bring my lunch tomorrow. No, that's awesome. That's actually a really good memory, a really good like first story. It
Uh,
immediately reminds me of the Brad Pitt story. I don't know if this is true or not, but like Brad Pitt was an
mm.
extra and that's how he got discovered. I don't know if that's factual. Don't quote me on that, but that kind of reminds me of that like extra and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh yeah, I got you." Like I'm a dancer. I know dancers and
Well, that's the interesting thing too for me is, I don't really do extra work now, but every time I do extra work, I, if there's ever a person that gets a bump, it's funny. I'm always that person, and I have other actor friends that are like, I never get any kind of bump and rolls and stuff, but I guess I have such a unique look or something. They're like you, but like I've been on sets before, and back in the day too. Like I remember I was an extra in a Junkyard Wars commercial, and they had this part that they just wanted to pick up for a janitor, and they auditioned out of us extras, and I got it, and that
that's
was back in the
cool.
days of. Oh, it was nice, but it was very stressful because this is back in the days of film and not digital.
Okay,
So
yeah.
they had the director's like, okay, you got 30 feet of film. We got to do this. We get one or two takes. Do it right. I'm like, okay, pressure's on,
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, and that ended up being a nice little thing back in the day too. So
That's
it
super
was nice
cool.
because yeah, it was the same amount of time really, just maybe another hour worth of work, and pay got increased on that by a good amount too. So
All right. So we kind of talked about your earlier projects. And we've talked a little bit about the struggle, but what would you say for you? I always think it's interesting the when you come into acting, kind of like what you find are your challenges when you start, and then actors were always growing and always looking to improve. I feel like, well, I mean, I feel like people should be in life, but um,
mhm.
so kind of like what were your challenges, what were your hangups when you started, and then kind of what are your hangups or what are the things that you're trying to work through or get better at now in your career?
One thing that I've always had a problem with acting, and it comes from I have a little bit of ADD,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never been diagnosed with it, but
Yeah.
I know I definitely have issues with that. But learning lines has always been my biggest hang up. And I always hate it when I'm on like a set where they've got like people right there with the script saying, oh, he said this, you messed up a little bit. Because getting each little line right, that sometimes it's kind of
It's
tough for me.
tricky. Yeah.
I much prefer it when it's like I know the gist of it and I kind of,
Can play with
and I
it.
get it exactly
Yeah.
a director that lets me play with that. But when you're doing, a commercial for a big brand, I mean, they want each word that writer wrote, and I get that. But
Yeah, it's all just so timed out with commercials, so down to the
yes,
T. So, yeah, it's lines can be tricky.
yeah,
I forget what Clayton said. Clayton was Patrick and I's teacher in the class that we were in. He said something about like he was talking about how like learning to be free as an actor, but then you have all the other like technical stuff of it and the confines that you have to learn to work in as an actor. So, and learning to still kind of have your freedom and be truthful and live moment to moment in that. So, um yeah, I get that. Lines can be
yeah,
tricky. Expect the verbatim lines is the hardest
yeah.
when it's, and I feel like it's always the simplest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's interesting to me, like when you try to get the lines, you're sitting there on set, and then there's so many things that they tell you to do, and going through your mind. And I think a lot of people don't realize how stressful that can be
yeah,
when you're standing there and you've got 30 people in a camera pointing at you, and you have to hit your mark, you have to say your lines, you have to do the expressions right, movements, everything, every little detail you've got to keep in your mind, and it's a lot. It's a lot to kind of to put in at one time, but of course we all love doing it, so it's worth it, and then the final product, is always
So would you say, do you think that lines are still kind of like your area of struggle?
100%,
Yeah.
100%. I still, and I've learned now that I really just got to dedicate an afternoon and time, and I have to block off everything because I'm one of those people. If I start looking at my lines and like, oh, what about the TV? What's on TV? I get distracted so easily. Like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. So for me, just finding the focus is it can be tough sometimes. But once I get the lines down, that's when the freedom of everything comes out, in my opinion, but
Right.
for commercials though, that's just a different subject.
Yeah.
Those are, yeah.
I definitely think focus is something everybody can relate to,
Yeah.
whether you're an actor or not. It's just finding that hour of time where you can sit down and just zero in on something is just so important. Whatever, regardless of whatever you do. Okay, so
Yeah.
kind of switching it after like talking about your struggles, like what would you say is like your favorite part about acting, or what are you most excited about when it comes to acting?
Honestly, the thing I love most about acting is the community, the people.
Mm,
I mean, in my opinion, we have some of the best people in the world. That we're just genuine people. It started with the theater too. Uh, when you work in a troupe, and when you work on a set in a cast, I mean, everybody's working for the same goal. You want the best product, and you want the best show that you can possibly do. And I found that in the real world, it's kind of more cutthroat, and people going after what they own want. Like this is what I need, and they're
mm-hmm.
very kind of, I don't want to say greedy, but it's more self focused. Whereas in our industry, we're all focused on the main goal. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I feel like with actors there can be this like mindset of like people thinking like, oh, actors like that whole like star mentality are about me, and it's like, no, it really isn't. Like it is
Yeah.
a huge group effort um to make the content or or the final product that you see, whether it be movie, film, play. Like it is there's so many working pieces, so many things that are happening behind the scene, and acting it is a small part of it, but it's cool to like know that you're part of something bigger, a part of this big thing that's coming together. And I always try to like remind myself if I get frustrated, burned out, whatever. um, just I mean, auditions and stuff like that. Sometimes you're tired, you're working, you doing other stuff. Like you don't always want to like do an audition at 11 p.m. at night, but
Yeah.
I try to remind myself that I get to, and that try to have that gratitude. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the people are what I love the most about the industry. I mean, yeah,
yeah. I always love. I feel like I fit so well when I get in an acting class. I rarely get in an acting class and like just don't jive with like the people, because they just get you. They get
yeah. Well, they're a part of our tribe, and that's
yeah,
kind of what it is. It's important to be around like minded people. That
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Um so I feel like you already are gonna like kind of know the answer to this question for yourself. But how do you feel? I feel like you stand out but I was gonna say, how do you feel like you stand out? Because we did talk about the market is more saturated.
Mhm.
But I feel like you just have such a unique presence, your personality. I feel like you stand out on your own. I don't feel like I stand out, like blonde hair, blue eyes, but I feel like for you, you have just, I don't know, just such a good energy and uh, essence, I guess, for lack of a word, about you. So, how do you feel though that like you stand out? How that helps you in the industry?
Well, it's funny you say that because, like, when I talk to non-acting people and I tell them I'm an actor, it's kind of like I don't look like a typical actor. And it's funny, like when you hear people like go, "Oh, you should be an actor," and they'll always say it to like the pretty boy or the pretty girl, and it's kind of sad because I mean the really really pretty people there's a lot out there,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of competition for each other.
Wait a minute,
So,
Patrick. You're pretty.
oh, thank you. But I'm a unique. I have a unique look. I appreciate that, out, Liz. But yeah, no, it's. I guess I have a little uniqueness to me, so that helps me stand out.
Yeah. I
I'm kind of got a.
go
Yeah,
no. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have kind of a versatile look too, which is kind of cool because I can play all different types. Like
Yeah.
I've been getting butler a lot lately, but I've played plumber and chief of police and something coming up. A Roman soldier not
That's
long ago. I'm
cool.
like, okay, so
Yeah, I definitely you fit in a lot of different categories, I would say. Like, oop, I could even see you like, boss,
Yeah.
blue collar worker, like you can really kind of dress you up however you want.
In the theater, that I've always been a character actor, playing the
Yeah.
different characters. Like in high school, especially if there was like a part that, they had a little trouble with, put Patrick in it. I could learn different accents and things like that. And it's always been the fun thing about me, to me, is learning the new characters and diving into a new character.
Yeah. I want to circle back real quick to something you said about how people kind of have this mindset of like being an actor is like being a pretty
Mhm.
person. And I don't really even
Yeah.
like using pretty because I feel like that's subjective. But
Yeah.
by societal American standards of what beauty is, I guess I understand what you're saying. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to touch on that real quick because if you really look at shows and movies and um, theater, like acting is a portrayal of life, and there are all different types of people living in the world.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is recreate the reality of life that we're going through. So I just want to take a minute if anyone's listening and they think that they're too old to be an actor, too young, they don't have the right look, they don't have this, that, or the other.
Yep.
If it is something that you're interested in, I would highly encourage you to do it. Like, it's just yeah, that's all I'm really going to say, but I can promise you that you're not too fat, you're not too thin, you're not too tall, you're not too short,
Yep.
or whatever other thing that you have on you that you label you put on yourself that makes you think like, "Oh, this isn't something I could do." You can do it. I
And
promise.
Liz, I think that's another reason why I love this industry too. Is it's kind of everybody can be invited to the party.
Right.
There's a part for everybody. It might not be your part yet because it's not your fit, but they're looking for everybody, and
For
that's
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Um Okay, so that actually segues perfectly into my next question. Love when that
Oh,
happens.
excellent.
So we kind of answered that, but do you feel like the industry is progressing into a more inclusive work environment?
Yes, yes, I do, and
Yeah.
I see uh, more inclusiveness more and more every year, and I think that's a great thing because I think that there's a lot of people that have not been represented, and I love the fact that they've got their representation now, and I think it's well past time for that. So yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, and I think people can freak out about oh, these more of these kinds of parts are coming up, which means less of these kind of parts or whatever. But it's just really that thing of like, one, I think everybody deserves to be represented. Everybody, like, especially you think about little kids, like they deserve to look at a TV, look at a movie, and see some reflection of themselves. That just can be so encouraging as a child. And then I also think like that mindset of like, there's enough room at the table. This
Yes,
lack mindset of like, we got to step on each other or whatever. No, like, there's enough room at the table for everybody.
yes,
And just I don't know, like I love that we're getting more inclusive. Like I love that things are progressing. We're starting to see more women and stuff in higher positions.
hmm
And I just hope that it keeps on that path and it gives you hope because it's really easy right now, like actors on strike right now, or people can get a negative outlook as to like where the world is right now or America in general. And it's like there's also a lot of good happening. There's a lot of
yes,
stuff like really positive things happening. So, like 50 years ago, we didn't have what we have now going on in our industry and like what we're showing to the world now and the content that we're creating. So, I think always just looking for the positives, That's just my
yeah.
thing. So yeah, so kind of moving on to the last kind of part of what's going on and just closing out with you real quick. What are you most looking forward to coming up? And then kind of like what is your hopes or yeah, let's go with that. I have two questions, but we'll start with there. Like what are you most looking forward to in the next like let's say year for your career or things that you're looking forward to, hoping for? And then I have one more question. All right, I lied. I have two more questions, but
Okay.
let's start with that first one.
What I'm looking forward to
Yeah, what are you looking
in the
forward to
years to
this
come.
next year?
Just I can't wait for the whole strike to be over. So back on set and being with fellow cast members, and um, not too much. I'm looking forward to just getting back to the grindstone, and
Right.
being on set.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, what would be your dream or ideal role to play?
Oh, it's funny you say that because I've thought about that too, and I love doing all different types of roles. But if I had a dream role, that I don't know. I mean, I've always wanted to be like the lead in something, but usually I'm not the lead. I'm usually just the smaller characters.
Not
But
yet.
not yet. But I would like to try a lead. And I don't know. I mean,
I could see you as a lead.
well,
Like a lead or like two co-leads or something. I could
yeah.
see you
I mean,
in like a buddy cop or I don't know. I could see you do something. I could see you do something comedic for sure.
yeah. I
So,
love doing comedy.
yeah.
Comedy's always been my favorite.
Comedy's a
I
lot of
always
fun.
It is, and it's funny because a lot of people think that the getting people to cry and make emotions like that's hard to do. But in my opinion, it's getting people to laugh is a lot harder. Because
Yeah.
I mean, laughter is it's tough to make someone laugh sometimes.
Yeah.
But drama, you can sometimes make a person get to an emotion just by the words and the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to emote as much and then timing's so important in comedy.
Yes, yes, it
So,
is. Yes, it is.
yeah, I really like comedy too, and I love when like you come across like good comedy.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people realize like the challenge of also like writing comedy, writing good comedy, and then you
Oh
have
yeah.
that extra caveat of like finding good actors who can really deliver that well. So, kind of hit that sweet spot with it.
Yeah.
All right, last question for you before we close this out. What would you say to your younger self? So 2 questions, I lied. And what
Mm-hmm.
would you say to anyone who wants to get into acting?
I'd say probably to my younger self, just have fun and be true to yourself,
Yeah.
and go for it, And to anyone out there just starting in, I'd say pretty much the same thing. Just be true to yourself, have fun, go for it. Be honest with yourself and with your characters, and just
I
don't give up.
Yeah. I love that what you just said about being true to yourself and just being honest with your characters, because like
Yeah.
that's really kind of how like this idea for this podcast even came like about for me was like through my early stages in acting, I just really was trying to like put everything on and be what I wanted, like I thought casting directors wanted or whatever. And
Yeah.
although you are playing the character, only you can play the character the way you can play the character.
Exactly.
So you still have to have that element of being it's your truth in that character.
Especially the interesting thing to me with honesty when actors, it's funny because I'll have non-actors and they'll be like, talking, well, I can't trust you because you're an actor. They'll say things like that. Well,
Yeah.
are you acting now? It's like, no. It's interesting because I think it's the opposite with acting. Acting to me is honesty. You find your character and then you find the honest reaction to it. And you're trying the whole time to give an honest performance.
Yeah.
But I try to live an honest life too. So,
Yeah. No, I
I
get
try not to lie.
I hear that too though. I get the I've heard that so many times. Oh, are you acting? Are you lying right now? Are you acting? And I'm like, honestly, acting is about being honest. You're really trying to show human life as honestly and as
Yeah.
emotionally like truthfully as possible. So it's kind of like flipped, but no, it's okay. I love talking to non-actors about acting because
Yeah.
you'll hear like the isn't Marvel shooting in Atlanta? Why don't you go audition for that or something? And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you're
Let
like,
me just give him a call.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. It's
I
that
would
easy.
love to. Do you have any
Yeah.
connections? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people that don't understand the industry just I don't know what they think. They think it's easy to get in.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, just show up on set. They'll find a part for me.
right. It's funny. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know we can't promote anything that you have coming out, but I can promote your socials. So, do you want to tell people where they could follow you at, and then hopefully when the strike ends, maybe see some of your work coming out?
That's one of the things. I'm not too much into socials, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I need, that's one part of my, I need to work on that in my industry.
No, it's
you know, 'cause-
okay. You're probably a happier person because of it, honestly.
Probably. I mean, I go on Facebook and stuff because, I mean, I guess that's what people my generation do, you know, but I don't really post too much stuff, to be honest with you. I like to keep my stuff kind of for me. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
no, I genuinely, when I said that, I was not kidding. You're probably a happier person because of it. I feel like
Yeah.
if I'm not knocking social media, I feel like there's benefits to it. I'm going to promote this on my socials.
Yeah,
So, but I definitely think people that are not on social media or don't get too involved with it, probably their mental health is in a better state. So, but anyway, that's a conversation for a different podcast, I suppose. I really enjoyed talking to you, Patrick.
Always, Liz.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. And to anybody listening, if you could rate or review or both the podcast, if you like it, it just kind of helps me keep doing what I'm doing. And yeah, I look forward to working with you hopefully in the future. And yeah, thank you everybody for listening.